we'll move on to talk about Newcastle. Now, there's been some reports actually of redeveloping St James's Park into a new 60,000-seater stadium. What do you make of that news for them?
I think it's good that they're going to try and stay at St James's. I think that is the right location in the city centre. It's a great iconic football home. And I think that would be the right thing. I mean, if you look at the stadium and the way the stands are put together, it's always been a bit higgledy-piggledy to me. And I think to try and make it like a complete circle around it would be powerful and would give them an extra asset, because they're going to fill it regardless of what size it is every week. And so they'll want as many in there as possible. It's a great stadium. It's a great city, and having it in the city centre that allows the pubs and restaurants, etc., and the train station not far away, makes everything a good experience rather than being an out-of-town situation with those problems. So I hope they do it. I know that they've been making moves around the land. I know the Reuben brothers, who are part of the Newcastle consortium, are excellent real estate specialists. And so I really hope they get it done.
I mean, Keith, it sounds like they're going to have an unlimited budget potentially to spend on the stadium. Given that we've seen, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium's redevelopment was really expensive. Even the Emirates at Arsenal, of course, Bramley Moore Dock. How much are we expecting that this could cost, and what sort of, what sort of valuation could this shoot to potentially?
That's a hard one without knowing the plans and seeing it. I mean, you'd normally have a rough sort of thumbnail idea of £5,000 a seat for development. So if they're adding, another 10,000 seats, then you could be looking at another 50 million potentially to try and be spent on that. But again, it depends on the architectural issues. Sorry, it depends on the architectural issues where the cost will come from. And when I said 50 million, I meant it would be 5 million to actually increase that. But I think it's going to be closer to 50 because of the architectural challenges trying to add on to an existing stadium.
And is it the best way forward, sort of under the new Premier League rules, depending on what happens with UEFA too, that actually the best way going forward to capitalise on revenue is doing up the stadium and the surrounding area, so that, like we discussed for Newcastle, they've got their 24/7 fan, their fan spot that they can go to every day of the week. Is that the way forward now for clubs?
Yeah, look, the Cellar fan zone that Newcastle are building is supposed to be a 7-day-a-week sort of entertainment facility. If that can be the case, then it would be an amazing way to try and generate new revenue. Everybody in football has been trying to work out the challenge of how to make money out of your stadium 7 days a week rather than just once every 2 weeks. And so it would be important to try and see if we can find new ways, new thoughts, new technologies to make that happen. Obviously, not every club can do that. Newcastle's unique, as I say, because it's in the city centre and they've got such a huge fan base up there. But there will be a number of clubs that could do something similar in some of the bigger cities in the UK. And hopefully it's something that, again, can add to the experience. We all know that in the NFL, the tailgating and the parties before the game is a big part of that experience. And I think, Twickenham, etc., the people in the car park drinking, the Pims before the games, etc. I think football's got a lot to go for in terms of trying to make the fan experience better. And there's got to be ways to work creatively on that. So I'm keen to see what Newcastle have to offer.
I mean, Keith, I know we've discussed in previous weeks about whether we think that the NFL could land there potentially, given that now it looks like the stadium will be done up. And as you said, it potentially, depending on what happened, the stadium looks like and how they do decide to increase the capacity and then the revenue streams. Do you think they are going for that Tottenham blueprint with deals like the NFL and sponsors? Could we see potentially more sports and concerts happening there?
I think certainly in Newcastle, you could see certainly more concerts. I don't think the NFL would go that far. I think the NFL is going to restrict itself to pretty major centres of population. I think the Spurs contract with the NFL runs out fairly soon. And as I understand it, a lot of the NFL clubs have now allowed themselves, individual clubs in the NFL, to align with different areas for overseas games. So that opens up a whole myriad of opportunities. But the facilities required for an NFL game are a lot different than just a normal game. Hence, you've seen Spurs with the pitch having to be taken out and all sorts of things, dressing room size of the squad. There's a lot of issues around the size of the pitch, etc. So a lot of boxes have to be ticked before you become NFL compliant. And then you've got to work out, will the revenue be there to justify that? So it's a difficult one. I mean, I was just looking at historic photographs of baseball being played at Goodison Park. It's hard to believe that happened, but because Goodison Park's quite a tight ground. So, things can be done. We've had baseball at the London Stadium with West Ham. So things can be done, but there's a cost implication that's important to make it multi-use. And the problem is, when you make it multi-use, do you take away part of the atmosphere for the football, which is its main area? And I think that's where Everton have focused on, making Bramley more a key football stadium rather than a multi-sport venue. But they've got to then make sure they've got the right new revenue streams they can generate from that facility, which I think they can do.
Do you think, Keith, with their potential unlimited budget, though, something like looking at a revenue stream and comparing X versus Y, and whether actually having it as an NFL stadium or a good concert venue, or even say monster trucks? I mean, if you take a sort of a hypothetical example, will they be that concerned about it, or actually will they still take an objective point of view and say, actually, we do need to capitalize here and not just go and spend money for fun?
No, I think they'll have to look at it as a new revenue stream producer, whether it's boxing, monster trucks, as you say, whatever it needs to be. They will certainly be looking at trying to create new innovative revenue streams, particularly with their new owners as well, the PIF. They will want to make sure that the asset is sweated as much as it can be. And I think that there's room for it for the people of Newcastle. I think there's a big market up there to do it. So it's innovation, creativity are going to be the key words going forward. The problem with these sort of things is, of course, that you're then designing a stadium now that really you're hoping in 10 years will be fit for purpose. And as we've all seen, technology and other things, just don't stop for us. And so you're making that gamble, and you've got to be pretty smart in terms of how you make that situation come true.